Hey friend, I am coming to tell you a little bit about the truth behind being a real estate professional. One of the big things that people tend to not pay attention to or have a clear understanding of is what is required to maintain our license. And I'm here to tell you it's different for all states. I happen to be licensed in three different states: North Carolina, South Carolina, and Tennessee. All three of those states have different continuing education requirements. This makes things a little bit tricky. One state, I have to do continuing education every single year and renew my license every single year. Another state, I have to do it every 2 years. And then the third state, I have to do it every 3 years. And on top of that, there's national levels for the National Association of Realtors to keep up with your code of ethics. And that also is cyclical. So there's a lot to maintain when you have a real estate license. On top of that, sometimes you just need to continue learning to learn. So right now is a perfect example. We are in a season of big change in the real estate industry as a whole, and that has required a lot of staying on top of things, getting the best next know-how, the latest information, because it's ever revolving, learning new forms and over, adjusting the new forms, learning how to have different conversations, how to navigate different territories, because what we were taught has now shifted, and what we're used to having access to information wise has now been taken away. A lot of different things going on, a lot of different requirements. So I wanted to share with you, it is October 2024. Okay, so from January to now, and then I have a few more classes scheduled before the end of the year. So for the year of 2024 alone, I will end up taking 60 hours of continuing education classes. Now that includes required continuing education classes, as well as some National Association of Realtors designation courses that are also continuing education classes. It'll go towards my count for each state. And here's the interesting thing, right? So they don't always overlap. If I take a course through South Carolina, that does not satisfy my North Carolina or Tennessee requirement. Each state has their own required continuing education course. That's like their core course. And then a number of other opportunities to have smaller classes that equal up to some elective courses, so to speak. Okay. So within that 60 hours, I'm just going to look at this. Within the 60 hours of classes that I'm taking this year, one has been the Tennessee core course. One was the core and elective course for South Carolina, the Sumter Board of Realtors. I took it there. There's another one that's like the perfect contract course that I took. And then I have an upcoming elective course on taxes. That's a 2-hour course. And then outside of that, I have 3 different designation courses: the ABR, which is accredited buyer representation course, a negotiation course, and a seller's representative course. The buyer's course and the seller's course are 16 hours each, and the negotiation course is an 8-hour day. So that is 60 hours total with all of those courses that I've taken either in person or online. Now, that is just like the required or what I get credit for. There's been a lot of other things going on behind the scenes. Remember, I told you we've got to stay up to snuff. So there has been webinars and town hall meetings and update meetings on what is new in our multiple listing services, forms meetings, anything, briefs, beyond briefs, technology, webinars. In total, let's see, I should have counted these up. So in total, it's 56 and a half hours. Webinars or town hall meetings or forms, classes, whatever the case may be, a variety of other things that I have not gotten credit for, so to speak, in the real estate industry, but have either been required by my office or been necessary to know the upcoming changes or any current form changes, whatever the case may be. But I'm just going to show you quickly. I was making a list. That's part of it. Back of it, 2 different rows there, and then a row there. So I've taken approximately 30-ish different webinars, town halls, forums, meetings, whatever the case may be, additionally on top of the actual 60 hours of continuing education. That's almost 120 hours of coursework of some sort, coursework and meetings for real estate this year. And that is on top of my whole career that I need to be maintaining. This is an addition to. So I just want to tell you, if you think that you're going to get by with just doing a couple hours a week and not having to maintain or learn or continue to change and grow, real estate is not the industry for you, my friend. Real estate is always changing. And honestly, it's really cool to be able to hop onto a lot of these classes and webinars. So for instance, the accredited buyer representation class that I took, the instructor was phenomenal. He was so cool and so concise, very good examples, laid it all out, and very professional. And that was really, really nice to experience. I thoroughly enjoyed the class and did not mind listening to him talk for 16 hours. Worth it. And sometimes you're going to have something where you're like, okay, can this just be done now? Can I check the box? And I'll also tell you, so the On the Road to Perfect Contract course, there was some difference of opinions, and we started going through some of the updated contracts, and the instructor said, that's not what that's supposed to mean, or this isn't how this is supposed to be taken. So we were actually able, and she happens to be on forms committees, and I don't like how this reads. This is not the intention. So we were able to kind of talk through that in the class and get a better understanding of what it's supposed to mean or what it should have meant via what they had discussed. And she was going to go back and see about making changes to it. So how cool is it that we were able to talk through it and get a clear understanding of what should be, and then also have somebody advocate on our behalf or be able to explain the confusion from a whole entire classroom. Okay? So there's a lot of goodness in taking all of this coursework, but it takes from your daily activities. When I'm doing an 8-hour class, when you're doing continuing education, even if it's virtual, you are doing nothing else but looking at that screen. You have to be on camera. There's a moderator, several moderators in the room. You do not take phone calls. You do not do business. You have to be seen on that camera the whole entire time. You get breaks throughout, but it is very much so just as if you were in person. Honestly, probably a little bit more strict than if you were in person because you are getting the privilege of doing it virtually. So you still have to build in time for your lead generation, for your actual clients that you're working at that moment, for admin work, and just running your business. So I just want to make sure that you have a clear understanding that if you're getting into real estate, it is a lot of fun, but it's not all fun and games, okay? So you have to be ready to learn continuously. This is not a one and done. Once you get your license, you just get to sit back and ride the roller coaster, okay? And there's, like I said, so much goodness that's going to come from this, but you have to be prepared for that. Otherwise, it's going to sneak up on you. If you're a realtor, most of us like to procrastinate a whole lot of the time, and you will learn that they will start rolling out classes right towards the deadline for when everybody's supposed to be renewing their license, and everybody's trying to jam all these classes in at once. You won't be alone in that, but it's always really good just to stay in the habit and do it throughout the year as you're going on or as things are changing, because it's such a nice perspective and way to reinforce what's going on in the real estate industry at that moment. And some of the continuing education classes can be really cool. I had one that was about meth, mold, and something else. But it was interesting. And she was able to tell some stories about our area locally that had run into that. But she got a class that, was for that. There was one on, different things that you have to look for, expect in transactions. And we were talking about sinkholes in that class. And this was in South Carolina, not as prominent there. But in Tennessee, injection wells are a thing so that you don't have sinkholes. So it was cool. We had a really nice conversation about that. But sure enough, actually, as much as it's uncommon, our instructor, her office building in Manning had a sinkhole go through the parking lot and drop out the parking lot between her and a bank. So there's some really interesting stories to be had, but lessons to learn when you go to all these classes. So I'm here to encourage you, don't do the bare minimum. Expect the bare minimum. Plan accordingly. Know that you will always be learning. Know that you always have to be signing up for classes every year, 2 years, 3 years, depending on your state. know those requirements, put them on your calendar, plan in advance. Don't let it sneak up on you, because they do tap out how many people can be in a course. And then all of a sudden you're going to be scrounging around taking a continuing education course until midnight the night before to finish it up online through CE Broker and get it submitted. That wasn't me, I swear. It's just very fresh in my head from somebody else's experience, but not my own. Taking 15-minute naps on the couch and then trying to get my coursework done because I just couldn't keep my eyes open. So, been there, done that, okay? So, I want to make sure that before you make a big jump into this beautiful real estate career, that you really do have a clear expectation of what is to come. Now, I also want to talk about the fact that this isn't a ebb and flow business, meaning you can work it when you want to and not when you don't. It all feeds into each other. And we see this. It's almost like a Slinky, okay? So it's very common that realtors, we get busy or we're doing classes all of a sudden because we've got to get it done and we waited till the last minute. And so for this week, we can't do anything but classes. And so we're not doing anything. So maybe we have a bunch of deals already going on right now, so we're like busy and our Slinky's really tight. We don't have any extra time. But we don't do any of our actual business work during that time. We're not doing our lead generation. We're not doing our admin work. And then all of a sudden that Slinky stretches out. And we're like, holy cow, all of these deals are finishing up and I don't have anything else in the pipeline. What happened? Where did all my clients go? Oh yeah, I haven't picked up a phone and called them because I was in classes. I was dealing with my transactions and I just forgot to do lead generation. So it catches up with you very quickly. We are very cyclical and you have to have things staged out for the duration to keep consistent income coming in. And we talk about this time and time again in a lot of groups that I'm a part of where, I was really happy just to take a little bit of a break, but now I don't have anything in the pipeline. I was busy and then now I don't know where my next deal's coming from and I got to get going again. And you can, but it takes time. So you're doing this whole thing where you've stretched out that Slinky again and all of a sudden things are really lean and you don't know what's coming and then it's boom, I'm so busy I can't even think straight anymore. So just remember that if you can set up systems and processes in the beginning and really stage this stuff out so that you're not so bonkers all at once, sometimes you simply just cannot help it. You're going to have 8 deals closing in a month and you just can't help that and you are holding on by dear life. But you also don't want that to line up with when your continuing education is due in June 30th, when it's the heat of the season and all of a sudden you need to be taking 8 hours of continuing education and trying to figure out how to get all these deals to the closing table. So make sure that your requirements and stage them out. The other thing I'm going to say too, and we're talking about this Slinky effect. This is totally unrelated, but I'm just going to say it because it's on my mind and I just need to say it. This goes to a whole other conversation about being set up for your finances when you're in business. I had to learn this lesson the hard way, and it's still a hard lesson to learn. I've got a little bit better, and then now I'm learning new tactics every step of the way. And we'll talk more about that. But the gist is that you need to have all your money separate for your business, and then you need to pay yourself, and then you need to have accounts set up separately for your reserves, for your taxes, and make sure that you are good to go. I did not do this my first handful of years in real estate, and it caught up with me in 2020. I had a jam up year in 2019, and then military life happened, and then I became a parent, and then we made 4 moves in a year and a half, and then my number of sales dropped off, and oh, by the way, I had spent X amount renovating our bathrooms, and I spent X amount going to Korea twice, and I spent X amount going to the National Association of Realtors in Boston. So really cool year, and a lot of cool stuff happened, but I spent all my money. And I didn't have reserves to carry me over through that next year and a half. And oh, by the way, I didn't pay into taxes throughout the year. And I had a huge $20,000 tax bill come due. That's huge for me in my world, by the way. I know there's some that's like $20,000. Gosh, I'd be saying thank you. But that's a lot of money in my world. And my husband had to save my tail. He had thankfully invested in some stocks that did really, really well, and he was able to sell them, and we were able to pay my tax bill. I don't want to be in that position again. And sometimes I do better, and sometimes I don't. I just had the realization this past week with my business coach that I have a checking and a business account, savings and a checking, for my business account, and I pay myself separately. However, all of my reserves and tax money is lumped together. And I'm like, hey, I've been dipping into those reserves and I haven't been paying attention to how much I actually needed of that for taxes versus reserves. So now we've taken an additional step and we've made an additional account simply just for the taxes. And you really do need to set that all up and coordinate it. And you got to realize, I'm a business coach, this is my fond reminder, hey, when you put that money in that tax account, it's a no-touch account. Set it and forget it. You cannot touch that money. And that's a great reminder that we all need to have that. Reserves are there for the rainy days. So when you are tight and you're making all this money, make sure that you still are sticking to a budget. You are only paying yourself so much. And then you're putting the rest in reserves so that you can run your business. Because when you didn't do all that lead generation because you're busy taking classes, and then now you have a lean month or two, you need something to lean back on, friends. So we will so deep dive into that one day and talk about how you should have it set up and what that looks like and how I have done good and then failed miserably over and over again. And you learn every step of the way, right? We all have to continue to grow is my point there. So either way, this is such a beautiful career of growing and learning and changing each and every day. So if you like change, if you like adapting to different situations, then real estate could be really cool for you. It could be a lot of fun. If you love continuing to learn and be in classes and be interactive, real estate can be really cool. I am a very interactive student. I want to talk. I want to ask questions. I want to be involved. I want to say, what about this or what about that? Or challenge things, which sometimes instructors may not like, but I want to have a better understanding so that I know that I'm doing my job well and that I'm acting as a professional in this business. So that is my little soapbox today on expectations for being in the real estate professional. And I hope that it's helpful to you to realize that there's a lot more that goes on behind the scenes than just showing pretty houses and putting a deal together, but it is still so satisfying and such a great career to be in. I'll talk to you soon.